Hi everyone, Mike here from Bikes by Mike with another cycling related video. I'm back upstairs to do a product review on the all-new Cycliq Fly12 Sport Bike Dashcam. Having used Cycliq's earlier version of the Fly12, the Fly12 CE, for over 5 years, I will tell you what I think of the Cycliq dashcams in general and whether their newest upfront model is a worthy upgrade to the previous version. Okay, let's get to it. Cycliq's first model, the Fly12, came out in 2015 with a substantial upgraded version released in 2017. Having gone more than 5 years without any changes to the Fly12, it was certainly due for an upgrade. So before we get into what changes Cycliq made to the Fly12, let's talk a bit more specifically on what this is and what it is not. While I'm constantly frustrated by cycling brands marketing products for something they are not, in this case, Cycliq has stated, quite honestly, from the very beginning, how they intend this device to be used and for what purpose. They state this repeatedly: no prize for those that guess the right theme. This dash cam, first and foremost, is about cycling safety. It combines a 400 lumens camera with a continuous loop recording video camera capable of recording up to a resolution of 4K, all in one very compact unit. So while the Fly12 Sport cannot compete against the best action cameras on the market today, such as the newest GoPro Hero 11, that is not what it's trying to be. Action cameras don't come with a headlight and typically are too bulky and have insufficient battery life and or recording time to be seriously used for an everyday, every ride, safety first dash cam. From the first Fly12 I purchased over 5 years ago to this Fly12 Sport I bought last month, my priority has always been safety over quality of footage, although I do regularly use my Fly12 for B-roll action camera footage. From a safety perspective, I bought my first Fly12 CE for when I was leading rides for my local cycling club. We were having frequent altercations with aggressive drivers, and I wanted to make sure that if we did find ourselves in a serious incident, we would have video footage to use as evidence. It was also handy as a learning tool, where ride leaders shared experiences about good and bad riding practices. I was also using the Fly 6 rear cam at the same time, so between both cameras I get a 170-degree field of view, as each camera has a 135-degree field of view. On top of that, about 3 years ago, I started riding with both front and rear daytime running lights for my own safety to make myself more visible to drivers. Most countries have mandated it for automobiles, so it just makes sense to follow the same practice for bikes. The benefits of daytime running lights for cyclists is well supported. I'll do a separate video on that later. But the point here is that part of the reason I like the Fly12 and Fly 6 so much is that they give me video and lights all in one neat package. Perfect for what I need it for. Okay, enough about what the Fly12 is and is not. Onto my review, starting with unboxing the new Fly12 Sport. So this is exactly how the Fly12 Sport is delivered, all in one box. So if we unbox it and open it up, comes with some safety information. So that's not the operating instructions, but just the safety information. Then we do have a quick start guide. Basically tells you to charge it and gives you a barcode to find the full instructions, so that's useful. Then we have the actual Fly12 Sport, which is obviously very similar to the previous version of the Fly12, visually anyway. And then if we just remove the foam protector here, or packaging material, and then here we have, what we should have is some mounts and straps. So yeah, here we have a handlebar mount with the mount to connect the Fly12, so that's useful. Useful if you have typical perfectly round handlebars, but if you have aero bars, then this will not fit. You do have an adapter, a mount adapter, which is very useful. Actually, I bought a couple extra of these because I'm going to mount my Cycliq on the dual mount that I have, which holds both my Garmin cycle computer on the top, and then the Cycliq will be right below it at the bottom. So very clean and compact mounting. I'll show you how that works. And then you have the looks like a USB, a USB-C to a USB-A charging cable. And that's basically what comes in the packaging for the Fly12 Sport. In addition to that, I bought a few other things. Again, these don't come with the Fly12, these are accessories, but I bought a couple universal adapters just in case I want to add it to another bike. It's not that expensive. I bought a silicone protective case, which will be useful just for transporting it. Haven't tried it, but looks pretty good. Seems like it'll do the job. And I strongly recommend lens protectors. So I got the ones manufactured by Cycliq, and it's actually the only lens protectors I could find for the Cycliq. So that's why I got them. Otherwise, I would not have gotten these because these are, I don't know, I almost consider this the old style of lens protectors. So these are the plastic lens protectors, which I find aren't as transparent as the new ones on the market. If you look at the glass protectors that are produced for actually most electronic devices, you can get them for smartphones, tablets. I actually bought one for my Garmin 1030 cycle computer. So they're produced for almost everything. And I imagine eventually someone will produce it for the Cycliq Fly12, but I haven't found any on the market today. So that's unfortunate because these simply just don't work as well, don't look as good, and I don't think provide as much protection as the glass ones. So I'm going to keep my eye out because if the glass ones come on the market, I'm going to buy that instead. But in the meantime, I do recommend getting protectors for the front and back of the Cycliq. On my older Cycliq, especially for the Fly12, which is mounted at the front of the bike, as opposed to the Fly6, which is at the rear, it's more prone to get scratches and marks from stones and other debris that's thrown up from the road. So they're inexpensive, good idea just to put it on and to protect it. Comparing the second generation Fly12 CE with the third generation Fly12 Sport, we see a few differences. Most good and a few not so good. Starting with price, we see that the MSRP on the new Fly12 has increased by $54, which is a 14% increase in price, which is pretty damn good given inflation is running through the roof these days. So kudos to Cycliq for upgrading the Fly12 without introducing a significant price increase. And looking at the next two specs, we can get insight into how they managed to do this. You can see that the maximum runtime in camera-only mode is exactly the same for both models, 7 hours. But the newer Fly12 Sport has up to 6.5 hours of runtime with lights on, while the previous version only gave you 4 hours. They have accomplished this by reducing the light intensity from 600 to 400 lumens, which allows them to drop the battery size from 4200 milliampere to 3000. They've also improved the efficiency of the entire unit, which reduces the load on the battery. I feel that dropping the light intensity was a good call, as I almost always rode in the lowest light setting available, which was perfectly adequate as a daytime running light, and medium intensity was still good for night riding. The big trade-off to all this is that by going to a smaller battery, Cycliq is able to keep the price of the unit down, and equally important, reduce both the size and the weight of the unit quite impressively. Another big advancement in the third generation model is the move to 4K video resolution from the previous 1080p HD. Both the image stabilization and file storage remain pretty much unchanged. Both units come with a 64GB micro SD card, which is good enough for a full day's usage. But the camera itself can handle cards up to 256GB of storage. My biggest pet peeve with this new model is the redesign of the cover of the ports. The older model combined a hard plastic door with a latch system, which, at least for me, worked reasonably well. It was simple to open and close. They have now gone with the more common rubber type cover, which you see in so many electronic devices that are waterproof or water resistant. I don't like this design for two reasons. First, it's just harder to open and close the cover since it's now a rubber gripper type fit. And second, in my experience, these rubber covers often break off after many opening and closing cycles. This is actually what happened with my second generation Cycliq Fly 6 taillight. Now, there are some reports that Cycliq had water ingress issues on earlier models. I'm not sure if the port redesign has anything to do with that, but I do note that the previous generation Fly12 CE has a water resistance rating of IP67, while the newer model is rated as only IP56. Regardless, the IP56 rating still provides all the dust and water resistance protection one should need when using it on a bike. So the Fly12 Sport and the older Fly12 CE each win out in three categories. But in my opinion, the new Fly12 is far superior on paper as it wins out on the important specs: battery runtime, video resolution, and size and weight of the unit. The Fly12 can be controlled with the Cycliq smartphone app, but you can also control most of its functionality by toggling the buttons on the unit itself. But there's no reason not to use the app as it connects easily to the Fly12 and is simple to use. Okay, so the first thing you want to do once you have downloaded the Cycliq Plus app from the App Store is open up the app. And you only have to do this once, the first time, which is to pair your Fly12 Sport to the app. Make sure your Fly12 is on and then hit scan and it'll search for your camera. There you go, it finds it. I hit connect, and after just a few seconds it will connect. There you go. So it's showing a battery level of 97%, so almost fully charged, and 2% for locked files. I was fooling around with it earlier and locked or saved a couple of the files. Click on settings. It gives you a warning that if you proceed it won't do any video recording, but that's fine. And here you have your various setting options: video, light, sound, system configuration, info about the device, and reset. We'll start with video, and it shows you various video options from 720p standard HD to 2160p, which is 4K. I have here selected 1440p at 30 frames per second, which I think is a sweet spot in terms of providing good video quality at a fast enough frame speed. So I'm going to leave it there. Going down, you have electronic image stabilization. That is on, and I suggest that you always leave that on. I don't know why you'd ever want it off, so I'm leaving that on. Video segment length, you can choose anything from 3 minutes, 5, or 10 minutes. I'm going to set it for 5 minutes just so that the file sizes aren't too large. And you can choose the logo and time stamp with the Cycliq logo and the current time. I don't usually put that on just because it always shows up then on my videos, and I don't often want to see that. So that's it for the video settings. You can back out, and now we can choose the light settings. And this is pretty handy because there's quite a few light settings, as you can see here. In constant mode, flash mode, and pulse mode, you have options of high and low. So you can, of course, toggle all these on, and it gives you the option of cycling through all these settings on your camera. But if there's certain settings you never use, it's easier just to turn them off. And I actually never use high mode for any of them. And I don't usually use both pulse and flash, so I'll actually turn off flash mode entirely, and I'll give myself an option of a constant mode in low intensity or low lumens, which is what I'd run pretty much 100% of the time, because I think that the pulsing solid white light in the front's a bit too annoying and distracting for drivers. So, but I'll keep the option there just in case I want it for pulse mode too. Camera only mode, so this allows you to run your camera in just camera only mode where the light is off, so you probably want that toggled on. And organic mode that you can choose on or off as well. For sound, you can select whether or not to have beep intervals. For example, when your battery's running low to warn you. I actually have that turned off. You can turn it on, but I don't find that's necessary. The rear of the camera has a display to give me battery life, and there's probably not anything else I desperately need to hear a beeping sound over. So I found in the past, sometimes it can be going off for no good reason, and I don't necessarily want to hear it. But you can yourself choose the beep interval and the volume level as well. We'll back out of that. And for system configuration, you have various options. For orientation, you can actually adjust this on the unit itself, but here as well, you can choose whether or not it's mounted above the handlebar or under the handlebar. And I'm going for an under the handlebar mount, so I'll leave it there. Incident mode is, you can toggle that on or off. That sets whether or not when your bike is, I think it's at a 45 degree or at laid down for a period of time, that it'll show it as or track it as an incident happening and save and record the last video clip. So you can choose to have that on or off. I guess to have it on is good for a safety feature. And an idle mode, on or off, whether or not it goes to sleep after a certain amount of time. I think it's 5 minutes or so, but I'm not certain. And syncing date and time. So this is something you're going to want to do most likely every time you take the camera out for a ride. If your camera has gone dead and you've had to recharge it, for example, then it's not going to be recording the proper date and time. So it's not a bad idea. Just get into the habit before your ride just to make sure the right date and time is activated on the camera to hit the sync date and time button there. And also SD card, you can choose to format the micro SD card, but I don't need to do that. And that's basically it. You can choose about the device. It gives you some information about provides your serial number, your firmware version, which is handy when there are updates. And that's pretty much it. You have an opportunity there at the bottom to reset to default settings, but I don't want to do that. And that's basically what the app gives you in terms of its ability to choose the settings. And once you've selected everything you want, you can then disconnect it. And now the Fly12 Sport is ready to start recording. To transfer your video footage from your micro SD card, you have two options. You can remove the card from the unit, plug it into the micro SD card reader, and plug that into your computer. Or just connect the unit to your computer using USB-C supplied power cable. This cable is also used to recharge the built-in lithium-ion battery. Once connected, your computer will read the unit as an external drive. Cycliq does offer video editing software for both Windows and Mac, which works just fine for minor video editing. You can also use other free video editing software like QuickTime Player to edit your videos. For me, I don't use either of these options as I use Final Cut Pro for Mac for all my video editing. Okay, on to the really important part, the video quality. So I've mounted my Cycliq onto my commuter bike and going to take it out for a spin around the city just to test out the camera. I was hoping to put it on my fat bike and do some winter riding, but there's not enough snow, it's not cold enough, so I'll have to delay that test and just try it out on the city and see how it does. I have always been impressed with the quality of video from Cycliq Dashcams, and this third generation unit takes an already good video image and bumps it up to 4K. The one slight drawback though is that the 4K setting films at 24 frames per second, which really is quite slow. Action footage is most often filmed at 60 frames per second with a lower acceptable range around 30 frames per second. At 24 FPS, you're just going to get too choppy of an image. So I set the Fly12 to 2K resolution, which films at 30 frames per second, which I think is the sweet spot for this unit. It provides more than enough details, such as being able to read license plates, while also providing a smoothed out, non-stuttering image. I would also suggest operating the Fly12 Sport with image stabilization turned on, given the ruggedness of most riding conditions. There really is no reason not to have it on. While the video quality can't compete with the very best action cameras, it is still very good and more than suitable for B-roll action footage. But again, this dash cam is not trying to compete with action cameras. It's competing with other safety cameras where few, if any, options are available. So to wrap this up, these are the things I like and don't like with the Fly12 Sport, particularly when comparing it to previous models. Starting with what I like. The increase in runtime from 4 to 6.5 hours with the light on is a big benefit, as I always ride with the light on. The jump from HD to 4K is excellent, and I also like having the option to choose 2K, which I feel is the best video setting. And a reduction in both size and weight puts it way ahead of many of the action camera options out there. Now, there are two things I think Cycliq could improve upon. The new rubber port cover is a step backwards from the more polished and easier to use plastic latch variety on the previous version. And like many compact cameras, while it can produce excellent video quality and good lighting, it struggles a bit in dim lighting. In summary, I really like Cycliq's newly released Fly12 Sport and consider it an essential riding accessory for all my road rides. I would highly recommend this dash cam for anyone looking for video capture and a front headlight. And that concludes my review of the Fly12 Sport dash cam and light. I hope some of this has been helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please pass them along. That's all I got for today, folks. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. It allows me to produce more content for all of you. See you next time. Happy rolling.